Have you ever wondered why? Some things in life just feel so addictive, while the good stuff, the things that truly help you, feel like climbing Mount Everest. Well, let me tell you something that's going to blow your mind. 76% of people are literally hijacking their brain's reward system every single day, and they don't even know it. Hey there! Today I'm going to share something that changed everything I knew about motivation, habits, and why we do what we do. It's called the DOPAMINE method. And trust me, it's not just another productivity hack. You see, right now, your brain is like a restaurant with a totally messed up menu. Some dishes are giving you instant pleasure, but leaving you feeling worse afterward, while the healthy options are sitting there looking, well, not so appetizing. But here's the thing. What if I told you that you could reprogram your brain's entire taste for activities? And I'm not just talking about some vague mindset shift here. I'm talking about a scientifically proven method that's helping thousands of people break free from what I call the dopamine trap. In fact, one of my students, Mike, went from being completely addicted to social media and fast food to actually getting excited about reading and exercising in just 21 days. But before I share the exact method with you, let me ask you something that might seem a bit strange. Have you ever noticed how the more fun stuff you do, the less fun everything else becomes? Well, that's not a coincidence. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why this happens and, more importantly, how to fix it. What you're about to learn isn't just theory. It's a complete system to reset and optimize your brain's reward system. We're talking about real, lasting change here, the kind that makes good habits feel as natural as breathing. Hey, before we dive deeper into this, I want you to do something right now. If you've ever felt like you're stuck in a cycle of addictive activities that aren't taking you anywhere, or if you've noticed that the things that used to make you feel good just don't hit the same anymore, I want you to leave a comment below saying, "I want to reprogram my dopamine." And you might be thinking, really? Just a comment? But here's the thing. This simple action is actually your first step in rewiring your brain. You see, when you publicly commit to understanding your brain's reward system, you're already creating a tiny but significant shift in your neural pathways. And trust me, when you look back at this comment in a few weeks, after trying the DOPAMINE method, you're going to be amazed at how far you've come. Because what I'm about to share isn't just information, it's a complete neural transformation system. So, let me take you on a little journey inside your brain. You know that feeling when you're scrolling through social media and you just can't stop? Or when you're reaching for that third piece of chocolate even though you're not hungry anymore? Well, there's this fascinating little chemical in your brain called dopamine that's running the whole show. But here's what's really interesting. Dopamine isn't actually about pleasure, it's about wanting things. Think of it like a GPS system in your brain that's constantly saying, go there, do that, get this. And in today's world, this GPS is getting some seriously messed up signals. Let me show you something crazy. Scientists did this fascinating study where they looked at what happens in our brains when we're scrolling through social media. You want to know what they found? The same exact patterns they see in people eating chocolate or, get this, gambling. Your brain literally can't tell the difference. And it gets even better. Or well, actually worse. Every time you give in to these quick hits of dopamine, the likes, the notifications, the quick entertainment, your brain's reward system gets a little more, let's say, picky. It's like eating super spicy food all the time. Eventually, regular food just tastes boring. But here's where it gets really interesting. Your brain is actually way more flexible than you might think. This thing called neuroplasticity means you can literally rewire your reward system. Think of it like updating your brain's operating system. I saw this happen with Sarah, one of my clients. She used to get her dopamine hits from hours of TikTok scrolling and impulse shopping. But after understanding how her brain's reward system actually works, she managed to completely transform her sources of satisfaction. Now, she gets the same excitement from completing a workout or finishing a chapter of a book. And the best part? This isn't some random success story. It's backed by real neuroscience. Studies show that when you understand and work with your brain's reward system instead of against it, you can create changes that actually stick. So, what if I told you there's a complete system to reprogram your brain's reward menu? That's exactly what the DOPAMINE method is all about. And trust me, it's probably not what you're thinking. You see, most people try to do these crazy dopamine detoxes where they cut out everything fun from their lives. And yeah, spoiler alert, that usually ends up in a massive binge session later. But here's the thing. You don't need to become a monk living in a cave to fix your brain's reward system. Instead, we're going to use what I call the 3 pillars of the DOPAMINE. Think of it like rebuilding your brain's favorite restaurant menu, but with science as your chef. Slight pause. First, we have what I call dopamine hierarchy, understanding which activities are high-quality dopamine sources and which ones are basically the neural equivalent of junk food. Then there's the absorption time, because just like with real food, your brain needs time to actually digest these rewards. And finally, we've got strategic sequencing, which is fancy talk for putting your activities in the right order so they actually work together instead of fighting each other. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds complicated, but I promise you, it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. It's like learning to cook. At first, you need a recipe, but eventually, it just becomes natural. And the best part? This isn't some theoretical concept I came up with in a lab. This is real-world tested stuff. We've seen it work with thousands of people, from busy professionals to students, from gamers to social media addicts. Because at the end of the day, your brain follows these patterns, whether you know about them or not. So, are you ready to learn how to be the head chef of your brain's reward system? Because what I'm about to share in the next few minutes might just change everything you thought you knew about motivation, habits, and why we do what we do. Let's dive into the first pillar of the DOPAMINE method. And this one's a total game changer. You know how some restaurants have different sections on their menu? Like appetizers, main courses, desserts? Well, your brain has something similar, but with dopamine rewards. Here's something that's going to blow your mind. Not all dopamine is created equal. Pause. Yeah, you heard that right. There's what I call cheap dopamine. You know, those quick hits you get from social media likes, random YouTube videos, or that Candy Crush saga. And then there's premium dopamine, the kind you get from achieving something meaningful, learning a new skill, or even having a deep conversation with someone. Let me show you how this works with a real example. Meet Tom. Tom used to start his day by checking his phone. Just 5 minutes, he'd tell himself. But those 5 minutes of cheap dopamine would make his morning workout feel like absolute torture. Why? Because his brain was like, hey, why should I work so hard for this reward when I just got some easy ones from scrolling? But here's where it gets really interesting. When Tom flipped this around and started with his workout, something magical happened. That premium dopamine from exercising actually made him less interested in the cheap stuff. It's like, once you've had a gourmet meal, fast food just doesn't hit the same anymore. And this isn't just some random theory. Studies show that when you engage in high-value activities first, your brain's reward system becomes more, let's say, sophisticated. It's like upgrading your brain's taste buds. So, here's your first practical exercise. Take out your phone or grab a piece of paper. Right now, we're going to create what I call a dopamine menu. Draw 3 columns. Appetizers. These are your quick, easy rewards. Main courses. Your meaningful, challenging activities. And desserts. Your genuine treats. Now, here's the tricky part. And this is where most people get it wrong. You don't have to eliminate the appetizers and desserts completely. The key is in the sequencing. Just like you wouldn't start your day with 5 desserts, you shouldn't start your day with 5 cheap dopamine hits. And look, I know change can be scary, but remember Sarah from earlier? She started small, just by pushing her phone checking time 30 minutes later and doing a 10-minute workout first. Within weeks, her brain actually started craving the workout more than the scrolling. How crazy is that? Now, this is where things get really interesting, because I'm about to share something that most people get completely wrong about their brain's reward system. You see, your brain isn't like a vending machine where you just push a button and get instant dopamine. It's more like a gourmet restaurant that needs time to prepare and serve each dish. Let me tell you about this mind-blowing discovery scientists made. They found that your brain needs something called consolidation time between rewards. It's like having a pause between courses at a fancy dinner. Without these pauses, everything just starts tasting, well, kind of meh. Here's a perfect example. You know when you're binge-watching your favorite show, and by episode 5, you're not even really enjoying it anymore? That's because your brain hasn't had time to reset its dopamine receptors. It's literally suffering from reward indigestion. Let me introduce you to what I call the 25th rule. For every 20 minutes of high dopamine activity, your brain needs about 5 minutes of what I call neural white space. Think of it as letting your brain breathe between courses. And this is where Jessica's story gets interesting. She used to jump from one stimulating activity to another, from social media to YouTube to Netflix, all day long. Her brain was basically in a constant state of dopamine overload. But when she started implementing these strategic pauses, something amazing happened. Here's what she did, and I want you to try this too. Instead of immediately switching to another stimulating activity, she started taking these tiny brain breaks. We're not talking about meditation or anything complicated, just simple stuff like looking out the window for a few minutes, taking a short walk, or even just breathing and doing nothing. Nothing? I hear you say. Yes. And here's why this is so powerful. During these pauses, your brain actually processes the rewards it just received. It's like letting your food digest between meals instead of just stuffing your face non-stop. But here's the really cool part. After a few weeks of doing this, Jessica noticed she was actually enjoying everything more. Her work felt more satisfying, her free time felt more rewarding, and get this, she even started looking forward to tasks she used to hate. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I don't have time for all these pauses. Trust me, I hear this all the time. But here's the thing, these breaks don't slow you down, they actually make everything else more effective. It's like sharpening your axe before cutting down a tree. Alright, now we're getting to what I like to call the secret sauce of the DOPAMINE method. Because let's be real, you can't just flip a switch and suddenly change your brain's entire reward system overnight. And if anyone tells you that you can, well, they're probably trying to sell you something. Here's the thing about your brain. It's kind of like a picky eater. You can't just throw away all its favorite foods and expect it to be happy with a plate of broccoli. Pause. Instead, we need to use what I call progressive substitution. Let me break this down with a real-world example. Meet Marcus. Marcus was totally hooked on video games. We're talking 6 to 7 hours a day, every day. Now, most people would say, just quit cold turkey. But that's like telling someone who loves spicy food to suddenly eat nothing but bland oatmeal. It's just not gonna work. Instead, here's what we did. We created what I call a dopamine bridge. First, we found activities that gave him similar rewards to gaming. You know, that sense of progress, achievement, leveling up. He started with puzzle apps, then moved to learning coding, which is basically like solving puzzles, and eventually he got totally hooked on building real websites. And here's the crazy part. His brain actually started getting bigger hits of dopamine from creating things than it ever did from gaming. Why? Because he was engaging in what scientists call productive play, activities that give you both immediate satisfaction and long-term rewards. So here's what I want you to do. Take out that dopamine menu we created earlier. For each not-so-healthy reward source in your life, we're going to create a 3-step bridge. Step 1. Find a similar but slightly better alternative. Step 2. Identify a halfway point activity. Step 3. Choose your ultimate destination activity. And remember, the key word here is progressive. You don't have to make all these changes at once. In fact, trying to change everything at once is usually a recipe for, well, let's just say it usually ends up with a massive Netflix binge and an empty bag of chips. Think of it like updating your brain's operating system. You don't just install everything at once, you do it in small, manageable updates. Each small change builds on the last one, creating a stronger neural pathway to those better rewards. Now, we're about to discover what I call the master key of the DOPAMINE method. And this is something that's going to completely transform how you think about your daily routine. You see, your dopamine system isn't just running randomly, it actually follows a natural rhythm. Think of it like your brain's internal clock. And here's the thing that's going to blow your mind. Different times of day are literally perfect for different types of rewards. Let me share something fascinating. Scientists discovered that your dopamine levels naturally peak about 2 to 3 hours after you wake up. Pause. Yeah, that's right, there's actually a prime time for getting things done. But most people? They're wasting this peak scrolling through their phones in bed. Here's what Mark, one of my students, discovered. He used to struggle with morning workouts. Like, really struggle. But when we synced his dopamine with his brain's natural rhythm, something incredible happened. By doing a quick 5-minute stretching session right after waking up, he primed his dopamine system. And suddenly, those morning workouts didn't just become easier, they became something he actually looked forward to. So, let's break down your day into what I call dopamine zones. The power hour, 2 to 3 hours after waking, this is when your brain is literally begging for meaningful challenges, perfect for those big, important tasks. Your brain's reward system is like, bring it on. The maintenance zone, midday, your natural dopamine levels start to level out. Great time for steady, consistent work. Think of it as cruise control for your brain. The wind down window, evening, your brain starts preparing for rest. Perfect for gentle, calming activities. This is when you want to avoid those dopamine spikes. But here's the game-changing part. You can actually hack these zones to work better for you. For example, if you're not a morning person, you can still create what I call a mini peak by using specific activities to gradually ramp up your dopamine system. Think about it like surfing your brain's natural waves. When you work with these rhythms instead of against them, everything just feels easier. Your good habits feel more natural. Your work feels more satisfying. And those dopamine destroyers, they start losing their grip on you. Let me share a quick reality check though. This isn't about becoming some kind of productivity robot. It's about understanding your brain's natural flow and working with it. Some days you'll nail it, other days, well, let's just say we're all human. Now I know what some of you are thinking, because I get these questions all the time. So let's tackle the biggest concerns that might be running through your head right now. But wait, are you telling me I need to quit all social media? Absolutely not. That's like saying you need to never eat dessert again to be healthy. It's not about eliminating, it's about strategically placing these activities in your menu. Think of social media like salt in your food. A little bit at the right time? Amazing. Too much? Well, you know how that goes. This sounds great, but what about social events? I can't just pull out my dopamine at a party. Here's the beautiful thing. Once you understand your brain's reward system, you'll naturally make better choices without even thinking about it. It's like, once you know good coffee, you don't need a manual to tell you gas station coffee isn't great. What if I fall back into old habits? Now this is a great question. And here's the truth. You probably will. Pause. And that's completely normal. Think of it like learning to ride a bike. You'll fall a few times, but each time you get back up, your brain gets better at maintaining balance. How long until I see results? Here's what's really interesting. Most people start noticing changes within just 3 to 4 Dalton's eyes. But here's the catch. These first changes aren't what you expect. It's not like suddenly you'll love doing taxes. Instead, you'll start noticing that the junk food activities don't hit the same anymore. That's your brain's reward system upgrading its taste. Can I still be productive without constant stimulation? Not only can you be productive, you'll likely be more productive than ever. Because here's the thing, a brain that's not constantly chasing cheap dopamine hits is like a car with a clean engine. It just runs better. Remember what I said earlier about Tom? Before he started the DOPAMINE method, he thought he needed his phone to stay motivated. Now, He actually gets more done in focused 25-minute blocks than he used to in entire afternoons of multitasking. So, let's bring everything together and make this super practical for your daily life. Because knowledge without action is like having a Ferrari without knowing how to drive it. Pretty useless, right? Let me share something really powerful that happened with Rachel, one of my students. She was struggling with what she called productivity paralysis. You know, when you have all these goals but somehow end up watching cat videos instead. Pause. Yeah, we've all been there. Rachel started with what I call the 2-minute dopamine reset. Every time she caught herself falling into a low-reward activity spiral, she'd do this simple routine. Step away from whatever she was doing, take 3 deep breaths. Ask herself, what would future me thank me for doing right now? And here's what's crazy. Within just 2 weeks, these tiny resets started creating what neuroscientists call pattern interrupts. Her brain actually started catching itself before falling into those dopamine traps. But here's the really important part. This isn't about being perfect. In fact, trying to be perfect is one of the biggest dopamine traps out there. Instead, think of it like upgrading your brain's operating system. Sometimes it'll glitch, and that's okay. Let's do a quick exercise together, right now. Take a moment and think about your typical day. Where are your dopamine leaks? You know, those moments when you're automatically reaching for your phone or opening that snack drawer? Pause got them? Good. Now, here's your action plan for the next 24 hours. Pick just one of these leaks to work on. Create a tiny positive ritual to replace it. Set a specific time for your controlled dopamine treats. Remember, your brain is incredibly adaptable. Every time you make a better choice, you're literally rewiring your neural pathways. It's like creating new trails in a forest. The more you walk them, the clearer they become. And look, some days will be harder than others. That's not failure, that's just being human. The key is to keep coming back to your dopamine, adjusting it as needed, and trusting the process. All right, this is your moment. Your chance to actually transform your brain's reward system. And I'm going to make this super simple for you with what I call the 7-day Dopamine Challenge. Here's what I want you to do right now. Yes, literally right now. Take out your phone, open your calendar, and mark the next 7 days. These are going to be your brain upgrade days. Day 1, you're just going to notice your current dopamine patterns. Day 2, start with 1 morning activity, swap day 3. Add in 2 strategic dopamine pauses day 4. Implement your first reward bridge day 5. Sync 1 activity with your peak dopamine time day 6. Practice the 2-minute reset day 7. Create your full dopamine. And here's the exciting part. I want you to document this journey. Use the hashtag #DopamineChallenge and share your progress in the comments below. Because here's the thing. When you share your journey, you're not just helping yourself, you're creating positive dopamine loops for others too. Want some extra support? Download your free Dopamine template. The link is in the description below. It's got everything we talked about today, broken down simple, actionable steps. And remember, you're not just changing habits here, you're literally rewiring your brain for success. How amazing is that? So, remember that question I asked you at the beginning? About why some activities feel addictive, while others feel like climbing Mount Everest? Well, now you know the real science behind it, and more importantly, you know how to change it. Your brain's reward system isn't just some mysterious force working against you. It's a sophisticated network that can be reprogrammed for success. And with the Dopamine method, you've got the exact blueprint to do it. Think about it. In just a few weeks from now, you could be like Sarah, Tom, or Rachel, people who've completely transformed their relationship with motivation and rewards. Your brain's new operating system could be up and running, making better choices feel natural. And remember, this isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Every small step you take in optimizing your dopamine system is literally creating new neural pathways for success. Before you go, take a moment to imagine your future self, the one who's mastered their dopamine, thanking you for taking this first step today. Because that's what this is, the first step in your neural transformation journey. And if you found this video helpful, you're going to absolutely love what I'm sharing next week. I'll be revealing the hidden dopamine secret that makes working out addictive. It's a complete game changer for anyone who's ever struggled to stay consistent with exercise. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Because trust me, once you understand this secret workout dopamine hack, you'll never look at exercise the same way again. Drop a DOPAMINE in the comments if you're joining the 7-day DOPAMINE challenge, and let me know which part of today's video was your biggest aha moment. See you in the next video, where we'll dive deep into making your workouts as addictive as social media, but in a good way. Until then, remember, your brain is programmable, but only if you give it the right menu.